So it's pretty easy to see that I'm a First Nations guy, right? I'm half Cree. My roots are in Driftpile and Wabasca, Big Stone Cree, both up north by Lesser Slave Lake. It's pretty easy to see that I inherited those genes. But I grew up in this colonialized world. I grew up in the white world. I remember when I was young, somebody told me that because I was different, native, I was going to be treated differently in this world. And I didn't really understand that when I was a kid. And I remember when I was little, I tried to wash the brown off my skin. And then I get into life and I start navigating life. And even from an early age, I had an identity disconnection that I didn't even know I had. And I grew up around predominantly, mostly Caucasian, white people. Yes, there were some other races mixed in, the odd First Nation, but I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I was one of the few that were around. But I did find a lot of judgment, and I really tried my best to not be First Nations. So I tried to fit into the Western ideal of what we should be the best I could. And I remember as I was growing up, I would avoid talking with my own people because I didn't want to get categorized in that same stereotype that I even had built myself. My biggest prejudice against any race was against my own. And it wasn't until I came into recovery after burning my life down, and I got to look at why I was using substances as a remedy for my spiritual sickness. A huge part of that was because I was not able to be who I truly was. Look at me, I'm half First Nations, for fuck's sakes. And I wasn't able to be who I was. And one of the biggest things I see of people in recovery and why they turn to drugs and alcohol, they can never be who they want to be. They're always trying to be something for somebody else. And of course you got to blot that out. So I remember the first time, it was about a year into my first year of sobriety, and I stood beside a powwow drum, and my eyes were closed and I could hear the singers and the drumming. And right at that moment, I just knew, this is part of me, this is me. And so began my journey to discover my culture. And it's been one of the most beautiful journeys. And I'm 5 years into it now, and I'm just scratching the surface, and it's such a beautiful thing.